Hi, and welcome to the Dark Knight Conspiracies. This episode, emergency broadcast. The hunt for Red October is on. I apologize to everybody. These last 2 weeks have been crazy with all the news stories dropping on a daily basis. But I figured today is the day I gotta get something out there. I think everything's coming to a head here, folks. I want to start with the latest. I shouldn't say the latest. This was the CUE post on 4730 on September 16th, 2020. We got a picture of a Mickey Mouse clock with some other interesting things in the picture, but I won't go into that. We see the one hand is at 10 and the other hand is at 2. Now what's also interesting is right here. You have 8 little dashes that are all in red, and we'll get to that later. So what's significant about the date of 10/2, which would be October 2nd? Well, shortly after midnight on October 2nd, Donald Trump tweeted out that he had tested positive for COVID, and the internet went crazy. Then we learned later in the day he needed to be transferred to Walter Reed Hospital because his vital signs were a concern. So he transfers to Walter Reed Hospital later in the day, and I won't show the pictures, but everybody, you can search this up for yourself. Trump was seen leaving the White House with a black mask. My opinion, he looks shortly thinner, a little bit younger maybe. I don't know. Some have speculated it might have been a body double. Who knows? So he enters into Walter Reed Hospital for a couple days. Everything's going good. Puts out a couple videos. Then he exits Walter Reed Hospital as the doctors let him go. And he enters back into the White House. This time, he's wearing a white mask. Now, some would say in the CUE movement, or the 17th letter of the alphabet, that was a sign of dark to light, which is interesting. Then he does his photo ops up on the balcony. Everything's good, looks good. Does a couple more videos after he gets into the White House. Everything seems to be normal. Now what was interesting was the press conferences the doctors were having. They seemed almost confused, didn't know what the story was, didn't know how to answer certain questions. I thought that was interesting. And then, of course, we heard all the remedies he was getting, remdesivir, steroids. Then Trump gets back, and he has this Regeneron, which he touts as the cure. And we'll get to that later. But now, I want to show you another photo as we soon learned that other people in the White House got infected. Multiple people, including Kayleigh McEnany. Now, this was an interview on Fox Business. Notice the clock in the background. This interview took place at, I believe, 7 p.m. I could be wrong. Notice the hands on the clock. 10:2. During the whole interview, these hands did not move. Now what's also interesting is if you notice the ceramic elephant up on top. What's the old saying? The elephant in the room. If this isn't a clear signal, I don't know what else is. Now I want to get back to the red dots, which there were 8 of them. So if we take 10-2, and I'm going to use the analogy that each one represents a day. Could be an hour, who knows? So if we take 8 days, that leads us to 10-10, which would be this Saturday. Now getting back to the cure. So Trump comes out and touts this cure. Now we all know what happens when he came out with, injecting bleach and HCQ. The scientists, the doctors, they all came out and ridiculed him. Have you noticed how the mainstream media has been silent on this ever since he announced this? Why aren't they attacking him over this? Where's all the doctors and scientists saying, well, there's no clinical studies. Well, we don't have the data. Oh, this is dangerous. We all heard this. I just find it interesting that they're not talking about it. So now I want to bring up the vice president debates, which I thought were interesting. In my opinion, I think Vice President Pence destroyed Kamala Harris. Sure, they both dodged questions, but my opinion, Kamala dodged just about every question. I thought Pence dodged some questions, which was, probably could have been strategy. But again, we got a Democratic moderator throwing up softballs, didn't ask Harris any tough questions. She obviously didn't answer any. So we wake up the next morning. Everybody agreed. I watched the after shows. Everybody agreed. Pence won this. Pence destroyed this. Of course, the left was spinning it. Well, I thought Kamala handled her own, with all her snirks and snarks and, rolling the eyes, typical woman stuff. But they come out and say, oh, it's mansplaining. Oh, he degraded her and condescending. Actually, I think it's the opposite. She was condescending. Anybody to sit up there and say, don't you lecture me, Mr. Vice President. You're in no position to lecture me. Well, quite frankly, he is. He's the Vice President. My question would be, well, who the hell are you? Oh, yeah, you're a senator. But you're also a woman. Oh, so we're going to play the victim card? No. You want to play with the boys? You become the boys. You're an established woman. You've overcome all these obstacles, being black, being an immigrant family, working your way up, being the first black AG in California, being a black DA. Well, quite frankly, I think you should be able to hold your own without playing this victim card. And quite frankly, again, I say she was more condescending. So we wake up the next morning and, we get some stories. Pence dominated her. She stuttered, didn't have an answer for anything. Well, shortly after, all of a sudden, breaking news. The debate committee decides, well, because of Trump having COVID and everything, the next presidential election is going to be virtual. Well, Trump's not going to have any of that. Why would he? We already know Biden cheated in the first debate. We saw the wires. Had an iPad on the podium. We know he cheated. He was getting, answers or the questions ahead of time. And I want to go back because we actually got that with Kamala Harris. There was a point in the debate where the moderator said, you know what, we're going to leave it there because that's a good segue into the next topic. And Kamala Harris responded, yes, I think that's an excellent segue into the next topic. Well, in order to make a statement like that, you would have to know what the next topic is. Otherwise, how could that be a great segue? So again, they got busted. Obviously, Kamala Harris had the questions, the subjects ahead of time. Everything has been stacked against this president from day one. It's just so obvious now. So, after we get that breaking news, because they don't want to be talking about Pence, destroying Kamala Harris, they got to protect them like they always do. What was one of the big stories? Well, lo and behold, oh my God, Mike Pence had a fly on his head for 10 minutes. Well, here's what's interesting about this fly. A CUE drop on 7/30/2019. He sent among them swarms of flies, which devoured them, and frogs, which destroyed them. Psalm 78:45. What do we have here? A fly on Hillary Clinton's eyebrow, a fly on Obama's lip. Was Mike Pence just ratted out for being evil? It's an interesting question. And then what else did we get? Later in the day, we get a massive kidnapping plot against Governor Whitmer, who's been facing all kind of issues in her state with the people of Michigan. They are so fed up with her and Andrew Cuomo and all these Democrat-run cities. Folks, these people are panicking. They're throwing the kitchen sink. Time is running short for them and they know it. Now what's interesting, Nancy Pelosi comes out and tells the press, be here tomorrow because we're going to discuss the 25th Amendment. Well, what is the 25th Amendment? Well, that's where Congress has the ability to remove a president because he's not able to perform his duties, and to discuss the transition of succession. Well, the normal succession would be the vice president takes over. And we all know Nancy Pelosi is third in charge as Speaker of the House. So here's my conspiracy theory for all you people. Why would she bother going through this? I mean, common sense would say, well, that's not going to get by Mitch McConnell in the Senate. They can have a vote. They can start impeachment proceedings again. Well, this ain't going to get by Mitch McConnell in the Senate. And on top of that, that would leave Mike Pence as the vice president. Now, here's what's interesting. Here's a Q drop from 10/9/2018. It's got a couple links to some articles discussing the plot to record and remove Trump based on the 25th Amendment. Coincidence. The news today is focused on a resignation. Now, this was 2 years ago. What's tomorrow's date? It's 10/9/2020. Future proves past. What is Nancy Pelosi doing? She's going to announce procedures for the 25th Amendment. Now, I want to bring up a Q post from October 7th. Right here, 4818. Threats, bribes, and blackmail being deployed at unseen levels. Dirty laundry, blackmail in brackets, controls DC. Why are they protected? Threats, bribes, and blackmail, or sharing of like beliefs? Dark secrets. Let's see what happens. Well, here's my opinion on what's going to happen. All these people are compromised. Mitch McConnell's wife, she's Chinese. And I'm going to get labeled a racist for this, but she is what she is. Her father is also a very wealthy China businessman with several contracts here in the United States. So, is Mitch McConnell compromised? I'm guessing he is. Mike Pence, how is he compromised? Well, if we all remember when Trump fired Flynn, why did Trump fire Flynn? Well, Pence claimed he lied to him. Well, what did he lie to him about? Was it the Russian phone call? No, my opinion is something different. My understanding is when Flynn was talking and possibly meeting with the Russians, I think they gave him all the names of the people that were doing, some crazy stuff that's been going on in this country with the trafficking stuff. We know that Putin shut down adoptions to the U.S. You can do your own research, but speculation was that this list that Mike Flynn had, Pence's brother was on it. So is that possibly what Flynn lied to Pence about? And then, of course, almost 2 years later, Pence comes out and says, well, if I knew then what I know now, I wouldn't have recommended his firing. So let's see how this plays out. In order to proceed with this 25th Amendment, not only would you need the Senate on board, we already know the House is going to be on board because they hold the majority. But in order to get the Senate on board, they'd have to be compromised. And you'd also need the Vice President to back up what Pelosi is challenging to do. My opinion, I think Pence might turn on Trump. And if he backs Nancy Pelosi, Mitch McConnell backs Nancy Pelosi, I think we all realize 80% of the government is deep state. You're going to get more than half the Republicans on board, which at that point, you're not going to have the votes to overturn this. Pence steps down, Nancy Pelosi takes over the presidency, then we get an announcement, well, I'm acting president until we can have a new election. Folks, this is how I see this playing out. Now, what's interesting, I researched the CUE board, because we all know future proofs past. We all know that the board started October 28th, 2017. So I went back to October 10th, 2018, and 2019. There are no drops after October 9th for the month of October for 2 straight years. Now here's my assessment of this. We've seen Trump on TV many, many times get asked questions about national security, and his answer's always been, I'm not going to tell you that, because if I tell you that, I'm telling my enemies, and I'm certainly not going to let them know what I'm doing. Now we all know Hurricane Delta is going to hit landfall tomorrow. What's interesting about the name of Delta, many people in the movement understand Delta is a term for a Q-proof, which usually has a 0 or 1 second delta. We also know there's a post about the calm before the storm. Based on all this, my conspiracy analogy is something's going to happen after October 9th. There's no Q history for the rest of October. I believe Trump has this. I also believe, ever since Trump got COVID, I don't believe he's in the White House. I don't believe his family is there. I believe they're all scattered. We now know that the Joint Chiefs of Staff all have quarantined. They're not in the White House. I think something big is coming. And I hope I'm wrong. But stay vigilant. See something, say something. And be prepared, because if this is upcoming, the 10 days of darkness, my guess is we're not going to have TV, we're not going to have internet, and I doubt we'll have cell phone service. So have a plan to get whatever loved ones near you can, especially the elderly. And be ready, because I think the storm is upon us. Thank you, everybody. Be safe and be well, and we'll see you next time. Same bat channel.